a lot of mediocre and I say intermediate stand-ups that can just rely on just the gags. There's not as
Mm,
many that are good at adjusting and improvising and playing off a crowd if things go wrong.
mm. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I can't, I'm not commenting specifically on stand-up here. I don't know the intricacies of it, but I guess with improv, there is a path to getting to the stage in that you take classes and do courses. I don't know how available that is in the stand-up world. I guess it's probably an easier route. You know, you can get an open mic and you don't have to have done any classes, so there's no benchmark in terms of quality standard.
Oh yeah.
And that, of course, leans into people kind of questioning, well, what's funny? And if you think about, you know, in an experienced comedian, particularly an experienced male comedian, you know, they'll probably there's probably an element of resorting to shock jokes, you know, because when you say something that's shocking or rude, the audience will react, and it's not really a laugh. It's more just that shocked reaction, and people could think, oh, that's, you know, a positive response from the audience, and I think that leads to a lot of pretty poor, mediocre comedy. Like I never want to go out and pay 10, 20 quid for a ticket for a show to hear people tell dirty jokes or crude jokes. Why, you know, people get drunk and do that in their own time. But you know, with improv, at least we have kind of some pathway to kind of, I won't say quality control, but at least kind of teaching people skills around, well, you know, this is what can lead to humor, this is what can lead to drama. You don't necessarily get that in stand-up if people aren't taking courses. Like I know people who have taken stand-up courses. I know some very talented stand-up comedians that I'm in awe at. But it just seems that path is a little bit shorter. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not kind of dissing anyone's choice in comedy or humor. And, you know, an improv are kind of thought to play to the top of your intelligence and, you know, assume that your audience
Mm.
is intelligent, you know. We sometimes forget that on stage. And you know, I think that's more interesting for me, that kind of path of discovery of where does this scene go, where does this relationship go. You know, we're all discovering that together. But with stand up, it's that sense of you have to have a strong ego going out on stage because, like I say, you've written this, you've committed to it, you're putting it in front of an audience. You've got to be able to take the groans with the laughs. But improv, we're supposed to, you know, it's not always easy too, but we're supposed to park the ego and serve the show, serve what the characters need, what the scene needs. And that to me is just more interesting. And I suppose that's a big divide. Because if you think in the past, certainly in Ireland anyway, there was a sense with improv when the improv scene was smaller of, you know, it was kind of like the bastard cousin of stand-up comedy. So if you had a comedy festival, not improv festival, there'd be a token improv group or two tagged on to the comedy festival, and it would usually be something short form based. And a lot of time, that kind of humor would be more leaning towards the blue humor, the crude humor, what have you, and wasn't a fair representation at all of what improv was. Now, thankfully, improv has evolved dramatically in the last 10 years in Europe, and we're seeing that actually, no, this isn't, you know, the cousin of stand up. This is theater. You know, this is theater in different shapes and form, which is hugely positive and usually the direction that I think improv wants and needs to move in. But again, not dissing anyone's choices, creative choices in the improv world, what they choose to do, totally fine. But that's just how I view it anyway.